And a good Monday evening, everyone. Thanks for joining for this Tropics After Dark. Of course, we're still keeping an eye on Tropical Storm Elsa out there, just getting back now into the Gulf of Mexico, the southeast Gulf of Mexico, north of Cuba now. You can see on the infrared satellite, it struggled a little bit over Cuba. Obviously, the mountainous terrain as it moves over that, it's going to, weaken a bit. And, but here's the thing. It's coming off of Cuba now, and it doesn't look all that terrible as far as the core is concerned. And I can switch over now, back over to the radar here. You can see the center there just emerging off of the coast of Cuba there, and it's going to get back over the water now. It's going to be interesting to see now as it continues to push off to the north if it's going to be able to strengthen anymore on its way to Florida. Right now, it is at 60 miles per hour, so it did bump up a little bit right back into the water, and so winds have been bumped up to about 60. And so, still a potent tropical storm, okay? This is on the higher end of tropical storm. Remember, you start tropical storm about 40 miles per hour. It's up to 60 now. It's 15 away from a Category 1. Is it out of the question that it could get back up to Cat 1? Certainly not out of the question, although that is not in the forecast right now from the National Hurricane Center. So keep that in mind. So moving forward, hey, how's everyone doing tonight? How you doing, JJ? Good to see you on here. Barbara from Milton, thanks for joining. Elma also. Gwendolyn, thanks for joining tonight. Good to see you on here. And Marky says, yeah, glad I postponed my trip to Orlando. Yeah, not going to be a pretty day in Orlando in the next couple. Leandrew, thanks for joining tonight. Thanks for logging on. So let's talk about the latest on Elsa and see what's happening. Again, there's the latest radar. We're going to be able to pick it up now that it's coming off of Cuba from the Key West radar site, and we'll be able to pick it up the entire way on the way to the west coast of Florida as well. So let's jump in. Let's go back to the graphics here. There's a look at the infrared satellite picture. Still, got a lot of moisture and a lot of convection down here on the south side of it, but the center is actually up here emerging off the coast. And right now, the National Hurricane Center has it at north-northwest motion at 12. Pressure's 1,007. The max sustained winds, though, are 60 miles per hour. So pressure's still pretty high, 1,007 millibars. So we'll see and keep an eye on that and see if it drops now that it's back over water. Again, conditions aren't perfect, but it does have some pretty warm water, on the way to Florida. So not going to be out of the question to see this thing strengthen a little bit more, but not expecting any rapid strengthening. Could we see a Cat 1 again? Maybe. Right now it's 60. The National Hurricane Center is forecasting it to get up to, I believe, 65. Let me check that again. Yeah, they're forecasting it to get up to 65 miles per hour. Easily get up to 70, 75. So don't be alarmed if that happens, so to speak. All right, so let's take a look at the current things we're tracking as far as the cone goes. There's a look at the forecast track. Again, this has not changed too much as far as any major shifts in the last few days. We kind of got into that lock on where we saw minor shifts back and forth, but right now we're really just looking at still the west coast of Florida. Right now it looks like north of Tampa, closer to about north of Tampa and kind of east of the Big Bend. I can show you a little bit more detail here on this one. This is where the current cone is. We're talking around like Cedar Key area is the place I was trying to mention just now and forgot the name of it. But yeah, Cedar Key is where the center line is located for the National Hurricane Center. You can see there. But notice that, we do still have a little bit of margin for error. So all the way over here west, looks like a little bit more rural area there, but the western part would be closer to like Perry. Gina is in here. There's a look at Cedar Key, and then back down to the eastern portion of it. Notice the east part of the cone now, because this portion has Tampa, Petersburg, and Sarasota, all these areas. And it's possible that the storm does just kind of hug off the coast there, and with that you'd have some issues. And I brought this up a couple of times. How you doing tonight, Nicole? Good to see you. Thanks for that, Sally. Appreciate that. I brought it up a couple of times. Remember Ada from last season? You may or may not, but I'm sure folks over there along, Florida, the western coast of Florida. This was a late season storm last year. I know all of us were exhausted last year. We got into the Greek alphabet. We had Ada late in the season. I think this was mid-November maybe. I don't remember exactly, but it was late. Ada was a tropical storm. I don't even believe it was as strong as this one. I'd have to look back, but this caused some issues over there around Tampa and some areas around, the Tampa Bay, north of Tampa Bay area, and caused some flooding problems. It wasn't a much talked about storm, but these tropical storms that kind of go, and again, this is not the exact track of maybe what Elsa might take, but it's similar, and the flow around it would be similar as well, as far as kind of the wind direction. So coming back here to, to Elsa here. So what concerns me a little bit most with this is, of course, going to be the rainfall potential, but you also have the storm surge that could be an issue in some spots. And here's what I'm talking about here, because these numbers came up a little bit. It was 2 to 4 feet yesterday, but now we're seeing a potential for 3 to 5 feet in Tampa Bay, and up here as well, 3 to 5 feet along the coast. And again, it could be higher in some spots depending on the geography of some areas. But that becomes an issue, and here's why. When you have the storm kind of off here, let me zoom this out a little bit. Depending on where this thing actually does end up making landfall, it's going to affect the way some people see surge and the way some people don't see surge. But if we do have a center around here, remember you have that flow coming around the counterclockwise, and so all these areas down here at this point would be seeing some water pushing in. Right now the National Hurricane Center says about 2 to 4 feet in this area, and then coming into, as we go forward here, if it does come around here around Tampa Bay, remember at this point you'd actually have water coming in, around the center in this direction and pushing into these areas. And, Tampa's a very vulnerable area, just like New Orleans is, where it's got water surrounding a lot of areas where you got the water pushing in, and there's not much of an area to escape out there. It pushes the water in. The only way for it to go is onto land. And that's why we had some of these issues last year with Eta. Although it wasn't a strong storm, the persistent flow onshore pushing water in caused some flooding issues. So we got to watch that this time, because I think that could be an issue as this thing does skim along the coast here. The best possible track for these areas west of, all these areas, would actually love to see, the system go in this more eastern track, because then you'd have water offshore flow pushing the surge out and not in. So it's going to be, like it always is, small margin for error here, like it was for the last storm we were tracking. Which I don't remember the name. Was it? It actually was. They named it late. What was it? Claudette. Remember, 20 miles east or west, Slidell and Mississippi Gulf Coast got some major flooding problems. But east, a little bit more east, a little bit more west, nobody had any big issues. With this one, it could be the same thing. Now, don't just discount it because it's probably just going to be a tropical storm. We could see some issues from this. Always an issue with these things hugging the coastline all the way up potentially. And you have the surge that's going to be pushing into some of these areas, and also the rainfall potential as well. All right, so again, the numbers aren't very high, but remember these yellow areas along the coast, this is anywhere from 4 to 6 inches of rain on top of the storm surge potential, but you could have higher amounts locally, and that's why the National Hurricane Center noticed what they did. Remember, this was for Claudette as well. We had these areas for Claudette that were under these red regions, and we said, look, if we're going to see flash flooding, this red area is where it would happen most likely. And again, they've circled this. Remember, the west coast of Florida here, down towards Sarasota, Tampa, and up here toward like the Cedar Key area. Those areas are red. So it's not saying you're definitely going to see flooding, but what it's saying is that if we do see flash flooding from this storm, this is most likely the area that's going to see it, the area in red. And again, Central Florida as well in that yellow area. So we're expecting some rainfall from this as it moves to the north, and you can kind of see how it might evolve. Here comes the storm. This is tomorrow now at 6 a.m. Notice the Keys getting pounded at this point, first and foremost. Some storm surge there. I'm sure water's going to push in a bit, and then some rainfall as well tomorrow morning for the Keys. And then we go up into the afternoon tomorrow, and here comes some of those squally conditions now around Sarasota and pushing into Tampa. This is by tomorrow afternoon and evening. Some heavy rainfall, okay? So we could have some heavy rainfall falling along the coast here, depending on where it's going to situate itself. You see how this could evolve as we go into tomorrow evening. Notice this rainfall still pushing in. There's a look at some of it spreading into Central Florida as well. There's that low close to Cedar Key pushing into around the Big Bend there, and then finally getting out. But that's not until Wednesday, late morning, early afternoon. So going into tomorrow, it looks like the the nasty day. As far as this system goes, and you can see how this looks. This is 8 p.m. tomorrow with the storm moving in, and by 8 a.m. Wednesday it starts to move off. So tomorrow conditions deteriorate by the afternoon and heading into the hours along the Florida coast. So that's kind of a look at how it could evolve. And again, the rainfall and surge is going to be the biggest concern here along the west coast of Florida. As you look at the GFS model here, we push this forward. Let's go to noon tomorrow. Notice notice what's happening here. By noontime, there it is, just offshore. And again, this could be a few miles left or right. So don't say this is definitely going to happen as far as positioning. This could be a little bit more east. It could be a little bit more to the west. But here's 5 p.m. and then we push this into 6 p.m. tomorrow. Notice the flow now around this. This is the map that shows it best. You notice the flow at this point would be actually offshore, the water going out around Tampa, right? And water probably not pushing in. But as we go to like 7 p.m., now we see some of the water moving in north, south to north, and maybe getting pushed in. But to be honest with you, it's really maybe not until we get like maybe even after the storm passes north of Tampa when you start to see that shift around this way is when you start to see that water getting kind of maybe pushed into that area. So it might not happen on approach, but it might actually happen once the storm's past that area is when you get that wind shift, and then the water starts pushing in when you have that more west to east wind. So something to watch there around the Tampa area pushing into tomorrow evening as this thing approaches. So a lot to watch as we get into the system here. Look at the Gulf of Mexico there. It's a kind of a compact system right now, holding at 60 miles per hour, but it is emerging off of Cuba now and getting back into the Gulf of Mexico. So a few hours now, starting right now until tomorrow evening, it's going to be all in water now. Warm water, not perfect conditions, but still, we could see this thing strengthen a little bit. Could it get back to a Cat 1? Certainly possible. It's not in the forecast right now, but don't be shocked, if that happens. So that's the latest on Tropical Storm Elsa tonight. Again, a 60 mile per hour tropical system. I am expecting to see a lot of rainfall tomorrow, first starting around the Keys and then pushing off to the north around the west coast of Florida. And the potential for some storm surge as well is a little bit concerning. Hopefully this thing doesn't strengthen too much. And, the best thing with that, maybe it'll move inland a little bit sooner and not hug the coast and cause so much surge problems. But that's just unable to forecast that definitely right now. The along the coast, hugging the coast track might not be the best thing, because a lot of folks would get that surge and a lot of folks would get that rainfall all the way up the west coast of Florida. But that's in the forecast right now. The National Hurricane Center does actually have it hugging the coast and then moving in close to like Cedar Key area. Not until about Wednesday at 8 a.m. though. So long day tomorrow for Florida on the west coast and portions of central Florida, as this thing's going to be hugging the coastline and causing some issues and the potential for some flash flooding as well. And I'll keep you all updated as we head through the day tomorrow and take a look at the radar. So the latest right now, there's a look at Elsa moving off the Cuban coastline, back over water. Some squally storms moving in there along South Florida, Key Largo over there, Homestead, south of Miami. And then Key West will be getting in some action in the next few hours as this thing moves to the north toward that area. So that's the latest around Hurricane Elsa. There's a look at the track tomorrow, making landfall late overnight into early on Wednesday morning. But for most of the day tomorrow, we're going to have a tropical storm sitting off the coast, kind of skirting the coastline of Florida. So some issues could arise from that, and we'll continue to keep you posted on this page. All right, thanks y'all for joining for this Tropics After Dark. Thanks for the supporters. Thanks for the people, folks sending some stars. Appreciate that. Stay with the page. I'll keep y'all updated. But until tomorrow, everyone have a good rest